back to the Progressive Gentlemen podcast. We are your hosts, Matt and Dan, and as always, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us nerd out about music. We recently caught a show on the Voyeurist tour, which featured Underoath, Spiritbox, Bad Omens, and Stray from the Path, so we figured we'd jump on the podcast and review that show a little bit. This is something we plan to do for shows we attend in the future as well, so this will actually be the first in this concert review series. And today we're actually joined by our lovely wives, Colleen and Stephanie, who attended the show with us. So we figured we'd let them jump in and talk about kind of their experience with the show.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have awesome wives who like a lot of the same music as us, and they come to shows with us regularly. So we'll let them introduce their musical background a bit and share kind of your favorite bands and shows. Colleen, you want to take it away?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks so much for allowing us to come on the podcast with you guys. Really excited about it. I probably started my musical journey by, like any other kid born in the 90s probably did, listening to Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, all of them. And then obviously my music taste kind of evolved and changed as I got older. And probably some of the music that I like the most are things kind of like pop punk, alternative, rock, emo music. I was definitely in the era of emo kids and definitely used to be an emo kid myself. And some of the bands that I kind of started to really like in kind of high school and things when I really started to get into music, and I still like these bands even now. Yellow Card is probably one of my favorite bands. Paramore is another band that I really like. Paramore was actually the first ever concert that I went to. Some other bands, Breaking Benjamin, All Time Low, Fall Out Boy, My Chemical Romance, all those really good emo bands of the early 2000s. And then more recently, a lot of this has been inspired by the podcast, but I've been getting more into sort of the progressive rock and metal, kind of like Bill Murray, Whalebones, Delta Sleep, and Owl. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Owl.
Oh, well, they're pretty sweet.
Yeah, sorry if I messed up the name there. But yeah, those are some of the bands that I've kind of been getting into more recently. So that's a little bit about kind of my music background, and I will hand it over to Steph.
So pretty much similar to Colleen. I also liked the Spice Girls and Hanson a lot.
Forgot about Hanson.
And then a lot of 90s alternative and grunge, lithium, like Sirius XM lithium stuff.
Yeah, pretty much when we're on a road trip or anything like that, we put a lot of 90s alternative and grunge playlists or lithium, like she said, on Sirius. So we do that a lot.
And then that kind of probably transitioned to Foo Fighters with Nirvana. And big Taylor Swift fan, and other early 2000s Colleen was saying, emo and Hawthorne Heights, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a big thing for her, is that older emo stuff. I think we all kind of listened to that.
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of our sort of like a lead into progressive rock and metal, was kind of like emo and pop punk.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know I went from sort of listening to Linkin Park and then started listening to a lot of The Used and My Chem and stuff like that. So we definitely had similar interests there. And I know, meeting Steph and seeing music on her iPod and vice versa, she had that sort of noteworthy band that I talk about pretty much every podcast, which is Coheed and Cambria. She had that on her iPod, and that was how
go an episode.
I was gonna say that was how I was gonna sneak that into this one, but yeah, so yeah, that's kind of their backgrounds. Now you kind of know where they're coming from whenever we talk about the bands that we saw on this show. So might as well lead right into it here. So the opening band for this tour was Stray from the Path. Matt, have you ever heard of Stray from the Path before this? If so, give me a little bit of your background with them.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I recognize the name, but I had never actually listened to them. Whenever they got added to the bill after Every Time I Die kind of disbanded and dropped off the tour, I wanted to get a feel for them before listening or seeing them live for the first time. And I really enjoyed them. I listened to them probably most of out of all the bands like leading up to the show. I think because I didn't know them, whereas I already knew Spiritbox and Underoath, and I liked Straight from the Path a lot. Like I like the hardcore inspiration. Well, not inspiration necessarily, but they are a hardcore band, and I liked a lot of the kind of the rap influence that they had too. I thought that
That's
was pretty
like
cool.
that is hardcore sort of at its core. Like it's just
Yeah.
like it's definitely like a derivative of punk, but also like a derivative of sort of like underground rap, hip hop, stuff like that. And Straight from the Path, I started listening to them probably back in like 2010, somewhere in there. I kind of had a hardcore phase. I was listening to bands like Terror and Thick as Blood and Trapped Under Ice and Madball and stuff like that. And what's cool is a lot of the newer hardcore bands kind of, I feel like, have adapted a lot of that pop punk style. Think of bands like A Day to Remember, stuff like that, where their
Yeah.
early records are very hardcore and then their new records are kind of like borderline pop punk. What I like about Straight from the Path is they kind of stay with that like early hardcore, like
They
those
didn't
roots.
stray from the path.
They did not. They did not, which I like a lot. So yeah, they really remind me of bands like Trapped Under Ice and Terror, which those were really big bands for me in that era. So as for seeing them live, that was the first time I've ever seen them. I thought they put on a pretty solid show. A lot of crowd involvement, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's a hardcore thing though.
Yeah, dude, the singer did not stop moving. It was like impossible to get like a good photo or video. He was just like a blur running around on stage.
That is true. That is true. I went to post a photo after the show and could not find one where he was not a blur. So
yeah, I don't know if that speaks to our cameras or
could go either way.
Or if
Although
it's
I got that iPhone Pro, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to, they
It
talk
should
about how
hold up.
great that is, and it's apparently he's immune to iPhone Pro photo quality.
he's too fast.
But yeah, I think honestly they probably put on my favorite show of the group, or top two maybe. I don't know. They were the biggest surprise for me. I didn't think I was gonna enjoy just being out of hardcore music as long as I have been. I didn't think I was going to enjoy the set as much as I did, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I same way, but I know the wives weren't quite as keen, but Colleen, you let us know what you think.
Yeah, they kind of weren't they weren't my favorite, I didn't hate them or anything, but I think they were just a little bit too heavy for me. Into I'm kind of more into music where there's more singing. And I kind of like the heavy instrumentals, but kind of the softer vocals. And just they had a lot of screaming, which isn't necessarily, my preference, but, for people who like that a little bit more, I think I could definitely see how, people would enjoy them. Um, this doesn't really have anything to do with their music, but one thing that I just really appreciated is, I believe it was the singer, kind of said that, everyone is welcome here, unless you're a racist or a fascist or anything like that. And, I kind of think people think about metal and kind of think like, oh, these people that listen to metal are, so scary and stuff. And then there's some of the, nicest and most tolerant and kindest people that you'll ever meet. So, even though I didn't like, their music wasn't necessarily my thing, I really appreciated that that they not only take that stand, but it's so important to them that they actually, said it at their concert. I really appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, well, they also had the Nazi punks fuck off in the chant in the middle of their song. So yeah, they're very take a very big stance against that stuff.
And that's actually like a hardcore theme, like hardcore
Yeah.
music at its core. I mean, there have been sort of publications that have come out and said like lyrically, hardcore music is probably like the deepest like genre out there as far as taking stands on things like racism and equality and stuff like that. It's a very big sort of movement in general, so I think like across the board hardcore music is very much like that.
It's also weird though because punks also have like the Nazi punk, so
Right.
it kind of is like one end or the other, but it seems like the overwhelming majority of hardcore is very like progressive and welcoming, and everyone's welcome here. We're glad you're here, kind of thing. So yeah, it's awesome when they actually walk the walk too, and they talk about it openly rather than kind of hide it in lyrics or whatever. So it is cool hearing that.
For sure. And I know during the show, my wife Stephanie actually said something to me that I wasn't thinking about at the time, but while we were watching them, she said they reminded her of something. And what was that?
They reminded me of Rage Against the Machine, and so I was actually surprised that I liked them as much as I did as well. I felt like I could exercise to them. They were like very upbeat.
Yeah, I mean and I didn't think about that at the time, but I mean I guess sort of bands like Rage and Matt, who did you say, which was kind of funny?
Oh yeah, the Beastie Boys.
He
It was
was
just like from a vocal standpoint, like the music, not at all, but
Right.
the vocal, which then when she said Rage Against the Machine, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it is.
Right, it clicked for me pretty hard when she said that. But I guess I don't really think about Rage as much when I'm thinking about hardcore music. I think of bands like Madball and Trapped Under Ice and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean that they really, once she said that to me, I was very much just thinking about Rage Against the Machine too,
Yeah.
which was interesting. But yeah, for me it was Trapped Under Ice was who they reminded me of the most.
I need to check them out. I haven't heard them, but
Yeah, they're
I
awesome.
like.
They're from Baltimore. They make good music.
Yeah, if they're similar to Straight from the Path, I'm sure I'll like them, because I've still been, even after the show, been listening to Straight from the Path. So
yeah, I'll send you some songs to check out.
Awesome.
They're
Yeah.
sweet. But yeah, any other thoughts we want to talk about before we move on?
No, I don't think so. We're ready to move on to Bad Omens.
Well, let's do it. So yeah, Bad Omens was the next band to play. Personally for me, I have not consumed much of their music leading up to this. I know they've popped into a couple playlists of mine just because they're similar to some bands I listen to. But yeah, most of my experience with them was actually shortly before the show because they got added to the bill. I don't know how I really feel about them. I feel like I vibed with some of their stuff, especially on their new record. They gave me like Siamese vibes. I think I said that in our last podcast episode.
Yeah, you
too.
did mention. I did
Just
pick that up
a little bit of that, like kind of metalcore, kind of like overproduced modern metalcore. Things like North Lane does. Some things like Sleep Token does. So I vibed with some of it. There were some songs that I added to playlists to continue listening to, but overall, it was probably my least favorite set, but that's just because of my personal taste. How did you feel?
Yeah, I think it was similar experience for me too. That I've knew of them, but I've never really listened to their music. I mean, maybe they fell in a playlist or something like on Spotify that I listened to, but I wasn't aware of their music too much, so I listened to it in preparation for the show, and there were definitely songs that I enjoyed. It was usually the heavier ones that they had that I liked, like was it Dead Throne, I think it's called,
Yeah.
something like that. Off their, is it their newest album? Or no, it was the one before that, I think.
I think it was the album before their new record, but I don't know too much.
Too much,
Yeah. Song titles and stuff. Like I said, I think both of us are kind of in the same boat. We kind of
Yeah.
listened to them leading up, but just going strictly off of what we've heard and what we experienced at the show, I think it's kind of like we both kind of feel the same way. Some of their stuff was a lot heavier than I was expecting at times, but I think that might have been because of who they were playing with. Or who opened before they came out, because Straight from the Path was probably the heaviest band on the bill.
Yeah,
but I mean, even the singer from Bad Omens was like hardcore dancing a little bit on the stage.
Yeah, he did the
but-
In Harm's Way
and
dance.
then he'd come out with like a real falsetto singing voice right afterwards, and you're just like, all right, that was kind of unexpected. I guess.
Yeah.
That's a weird transition, but
I did think his vocal range was pretty impressive because he, like you said, he could sing and then also had a lot of the screams and stuff. And I have a lot of respect for people that, well, any musical person really, but especially when they can kind of do both the singing and the screaming. I think that's really impressive. So that's definitely one thing that I noticed about them.
probably be a big metalcore fan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the kind of main appeal, I think, of metalcore is the vocal range, where they sing a lot and then they're able to also pull off the growls and stuff
Right.
too.
I was gonna say not all metalcore, but that's definitely, especially modern metalcore. There's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they put on an interesting show too. Like he put on like a ski mask at one point, and like they kind of had this like I don't know eerie vibe to them, and so they kind of like added to the element with the show, and I thought it was cool. Um, I didn't vibe with so much of the like they had some kind of electronic heavy, and like you said, like the produced stuff. And I wasn't as big of a fan of that, but overall, like I think it was a cool show and interesting. Like they were definitely entertaining, and maybe not a band I keep heavy in rotation, but definitely a band that I'll keep checking out as they put out new stuff.
Yeah, a couple songs made my like best tracks of 2022 playlist off that new record. So I mean, I probably will keep a couple of their songs in rotation just because I do kind of these days gravitate heavily towards bands like Siamese and Sleep Token and other bands that do that similar, shtick. But uh, for the most part, the overproduced stuff, they do that a little bit more than those bands. So it's not really for me.
Yeah, that was
But
kind of the
and to kind of riff off the ski mask thing, I like looked into it a little bit. I feel like they call them like their fans call themselves like the Bad Omen cult or something like that. And I think he did
oh
say that at the show after he
He
like
did. I made note of it. I thought it was strange.
yeah. So I think because like Sleep Token does that too. Like they like
yeah
with all their cryptic stuff and everything they send out, they're like this is ready to be consumed, worship and all this weird stuff. So like I guess that's a thing, but I guess that's
yeah.
another reason
Even
to
like
compare
21
them.
Pilots, who's a radio band, they
Yeah,
have that too. And honestly,
Ghost,
yeah, Ghost the same way. There's a lot of bands now that are like creating.
Slipknot, the Maggots.
Yeah, that's just such a gross name too.
It is. It's fitting though. I'm not going to go into more. Yeah,
But is that actually what they call themselves, the maggots?
that is what they call themselves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
That is very weird.
But yeah, I would say I did like the sound of Bad Omens kind of overall. I thought I could definitely see myself listening to them. I haven't really listened to them post the concert, but the concert wasn't that long ago. So but yeah, I liked it. Like I kind of mentioned before, I definitely liked the mix of singing and screaming. Like I said, kind of when I was talking about my background, I don't like a whole lot of screaming. Um but when there's kind of a mix like that, I do think that it really I do really enjoy that. So and just like I said, I can really appreciate when someone has that a vocal range that can go to both singing and screaming. The outfits were definitely a bit interesting, a bit different, but to each his own.
That's why we wanted a woman's perspective. We don't normally look at the outfits of the bands, but that's what we
I don't know
needed.
how you could miss those ones.
They were unique for sure.
Yeah, so I think next we'll move into Spiritbox, which I think was kind of everyone here's like the main attraction that brought us to buying tickets to the show.
Definitely for you and me. I know Stephanie is definitely a big Underoath fan. So I mean, so
Oh,
am I.
okay.
We definitely listen to we kind of have a back and forth about what their best record is, but we can talk about that whenever we get to Underoath. But yeah, for
Yeah.
you and I, for sure, that's the reason this bill kind of caught our eye, and that's probably why we bought tickets in the first place.
Yeah, keeping with the trend of me mentioning Spiritbox in every episode, similar to you with Coheed.
I already got Coheed in. We're good.
we hit our quota for the episode. Yeah, for me, I thought it was a really good show. I know they just we talked about in our last episode they had COVID, and they didn't, I guess, come out and say who got it, but just based off of the show, I'm guessing that Courtney had it, as well as maybe other people, but her voice seemed a little hoarse, but I think she did a great job. I think the mix was a little like, and maybe it's because her voice was a little hoarse, so it kind of changed the mix. But I felt like her vocals were drowned out a little bit, and I wish I could have heard them more. Um, but I think they had an awesome set list. I enjoyed the songs that they played, and I thought they put on a good show despite just coming off of healing from COVID.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think it was the mix. I don't know for sure. It probably was a combination, but you could tell sort of her cleans versus her head, like her like harsh vocals, whatever you want to call them, her screams.
Yeah.
The volume difference between the two, it was almost like they cranked her mic up to like make up for the fact that she was singing lower or more hoarse because maybe she still wasn't feeling well. I know some social media posts leading up kind of said, like, I feel exhausted, but I'm going to give it my best shot kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just assuming that maybe they tried to make adjustments to the mix on her vocal to make up for her low, like, clean vocals. Because then when it kicked into her harsh vocals, it was like almost too much.
Yeah.
So it was just a weird mix going from one to the other too. It was like really loud and then like barely audible. So
I think she has such an awesome voice. I knew that some people in the band had COVID before you guys told me about that, and if I don't know if she had it or not, but she has such an awesome voice, and I kind of like I talked about with Bad Omens a little bit. I have a lot of respect for her, especially as a woman who can have such a wide range of vocals, and I think also to be a woman in such a male dominated music scene, and she just rocks it so well. I have a lot of respect for her, and I think she's awesome.
and seeing videos, both like her like one take vocal videos and stuff like that, she can do this stuff live. So
Yeah.
that's why whenever we saw her and it wasn't seemingly like on point, I knew something was up there. Whether it's literally when we saw her, when they announced they had COVID, it was like 6 days before we saw them. So
Yeah.
even if they had recovered and weren't contagious and were able to perform, which we assume since they performed,
Yeah, and they sat out several shows, so obviously they
Right.
were taking the precautions and stuff, but they must
think-
have felt like they were ready to.
yeah, I
get
think
back.
we were the second show they played, like
Yeah, it was
post COVID.
Cleveland first, and then
Right, Cleveland was
Pittsburgh.
first. Yeah, so it's knowing that she can do it live, seeing even seeing other videos later on in the tour, you could tell that something had changed and it was sounding better. So I think, I look at it as we're fortunate that we got to see them perform.
Yeah,
So I take it with a grain of salt before I say like, oh, this was terrible, because it wasn't terrible.
yeah, I didn't think it was terrible. I wasn't trying to like
No, I know.
shit on it or anything. Like I think she did a fantastic job, and I think it honestly was probably more of the mix than it was her vocals, because when this when the instrumentation was quieter and you could hear her vocals, like it sounded good.
Yeah,
It
it
sounded
just was
like it was
low.
more of the mix, and I think it might be because having a hoarse voice, but I still think she killed it. And
I just think she wasn't able to like belt. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
She
so
didn't
they
have the
so they
volume.
turned the mic up
yeah,
so you could hear it a little bit, but she was still quiet. But when she would like go into harsh vocals, because
like,
the
too
mic was
loud.
turned up,
yeah,
it was like too loud. So it was just like it was a weird contrast between the two.
yeah.
You
but
were both still crying when she sang "Blessed Be."
It was a beautiful
there
moment.
There were tears in my eyes.
Yeah, it was.
It's
Love
an
that.
awesome song.
It is. It's probably, I don't know. It might be my favorite song by them. I'm not sure. They have a lot of good songs. Even before they released their newest record, a lot of people don't go back and listen to their like self-titled EP. A lot of like newer fans don't know about like the Mara Effect like suite of songs, which are potentially their best work. So if you've not gone back to listen to their EP, it's definitely worth it. They have a lot of good music. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, "Blessed Be" is my favorite song by them, but I mean, you're hard pressed to find a song by them that's not fantastic. So,
yeah, except Holy Roller.
yeah, you're not too keen on that song. I like it, but it's definitely like one of the weaker ones out of theirs. But I think it plays well at shows. Like it's definitely a hype song, and just like seeing her belt those, like for people that maybe are tagging along with a friend and aren't familiar with Spiritbox, seeing her just like hit those growls in Holy Roller would just be like, oh my God, what was that?
It's
moment.
also a severely unpopular opinion to say that Holy Roller is the weakest song.
Yeah,
or
you're the
our
odd one
least.
out on
Yeah,
that.
so I totally get that. I don't know. I don't like it. But yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. This is the first time we've seen them live, either one of us. So hopefully they come through again, because it would be nice to see with a better mix how things would roll. But
Yeah, I like Spiritbox, I think, because they have such a good mix of kind of softer and heavy songs. And I think they played a good mix of the soft and heavy songs at the show as well. So, for someone like me who doesn't necessarily always love a song that is mostly screaming, I can still find a lot of music by um Spiritbox that I really like. And I don't even remember what song it was. I'm terrible with song names, but I noticed kind of just the bass and the guitar really stood out to me. I just thought they had some really cool riffs, and really enjoyed that. And they had a really cool light show as well. I dug all the like purple lights and stuff. I thought that was really cool.
that's one thing that people don't really like put any emphasis on with Spiritbox. And probably mostly because they use like tuned down 9-string guitars. You don't really hear how technical Mike's guitar work is.
Mike is a beast.
But he's a very, very good guitarist. So I think that's something that kind of gets lost in the mix because Courtney is the lead singer.
Yeah.
But yeah, he deserves a lot of credit on their songs as well, because even though they don't sound as technical maybe as like, like other, I don't know, what would
Animals
you
as
even, I was,
leaders.
right, what would you even
I don't know.
classify the Spiritbox as? Metalcore? Would they
Yeah,
fall into
I
that bucket?
guess. Yeah.
Progressive metalcore?
Yeah.
I mean, they do, they have progressive tendencies, so
They like just defy genre, I feel like. They've got some like poppy stuff
right,
in there.
yeah.
And
So they're
not Poppy the band, Poppy the
no. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, other bands, with the high, where they're just playing standard tuned 6-string guitars, or maybe drop tuned 6-string, 7-string guitars. Mike plays a 9-string down tuned. So it's like everything's very, very heavy, so it's hard to pick out sort of the technical stuff that he's doing. So it was cool to see live. Cool to hear live. You can kind of pick up a little bit more of the distinctive sounds, distinctive tones in their instrumentals. So
Yeah, I guess if for nothing else, the mix helped bring light to
yeah,
their skills. Not to like diminish Courtney's, because
right.
she's awesome, but just hearing them cut through in the mix a little more than they normally would, it was just like, wow, yeah, this is just a friendly reminder that they're all really good.
For sure, for sure.
The only thing that I was a little bit disappointed about with Spiritbox was their merch. I was really looking forward to some cool, like, they have all that, like, blue and black kind of tie-dye merch that I've seen on their website. And maybe it was just because we were kind of on the tail end of the tour. I don't know. But that's kind of what I talked about before the show, is like, oh, I'm so excited to get some Spiritbox merch. Like, I had never actually listened to them before. Matt played them for me. And I do really enjoy them, and I think all of their vinyl look really cool, and all the merch that they have on their website looks really cool. And just what they had at the show just really wasn't doing it for me. So unfortunately I wasn't able to get any, but other than that, I think they put on a really great show.
We'll just have to go to the next time they stop, and hopefully they'll have some more merch and maybe some vinyl and the stuff to pick up.
Absolutely.
They need to bring more t-shirts.
Yes, for sure. I was a little disappointed with the merch as well. I was hoping to get a hoodie because I saw that cool like half black, half blue hoodie or whatever, and yeah, it didn't work out for me, but that's fine. I snagged an Underoath hoodie anyways, and that's the band we're going to talk about next. So let's go ahead and transition there. So
I'm rocking my Underoath shirt from the tour.
yeah, so I definitely think it was a nice taste of nostalgia for most of us who listened to that stuff back in the day. But I had actually seen Underoath before. So this is my second experience with Underoath. My first experience with Underoath was actually a Warp Tour back in like, what, I don't know, 2009 maybe? So 2008? I don't even know. It was a while ago. Which was cool. I mean, those were the days where I could actually like hold my own in a pit and stuff like that too. So nowadays, creaky bones, being old, so it's just sat to the side and watched this show. But yeah, I definitely was a huge Underoath fan. I've said it on multiple podcasts. I'll say it again. They're Only Chasing Safety is one of the most iconic records for me. And so being able to see them play a few songs off that record, Reinventing Your Exit and It's Dangerous Business, Walking Out Your Front Door, Boy Brushed in Red. I mean, it was really cool to see those songs live.
Yeah, I was really impressed with their set list. I think they had a really good mix. I know not obviously their newest record, but the one before I wasn't a huge fan of, but they they only played two songs, I think it was, from that album, and the two that they picked I think were good ones, and they mixed them in with the classic songs that I think most Underoath fans wanted to hear. So I think they did a really good job of song placement, and I kind of it was cool the way the show started off with on stage with the mask, and they're
Oh
like
yeah.
almost doing like mindfulness at the beginning. It was like close your eyes.
Yeah, so a look behind the curtain a little bit. I am a social worker and I do mindfulness with the people that I work with very often. So I thought that was a little interesting. It did kind of creep me out a little bit. I wasn't very relaxed like you're supposed to be when you do mindfulness. I don't know, just the way that his voice was, it was like, close your eyes and relax. I was like, or what? Like, what are you going to do to me if I don't relax?
I did
Because
not like the mask.
yeah, it was weird, but mindfulness is great.
Yeah, I thought it was just like I don't know, like I didn't expect it at all. It's not something that I would have anticipated Under Oath to do, so it kind of like threw me off, and I was like, "What is going on here?" And it just was like a memorable thing for me in the show. So
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was cool. It was definitely cool. They started the set with a new track. But like of the first 5 tracks that they played, I think 3 of them were old, like 2 songs off of They're Only Chasing Safety and 1 off of Define the Great Line. So it was, and then like they sort of continued that mix too. Like it was a good mix of old songs and new songs, which I think sort of kept, for me personally, being a fan of their older stuff, it kept me engaged. I think this was my favorite set of the night. Probably by far actually. I said Straight from the Path as well was up there. So but I really liked sort of the nostalgia got me. I thought Straight from the Path was going to be my favorite until they played It's Dangerous Business, Walking Out Your Front Door, and I was like,
That
oh
got you going.
man. Yeah, that just brought me back.
Yeah, I think the nostalgia combined with that, just the set list, the way they flowed it through songs, the light show, all of it just combined to make such an awesome experience. And since I kind of went in thinking like, oh, Spiritbox is going to be my favorite show here, then it was just like going into Underoath and being so excited and stuff. I think it was a pretty awesome show. It might be my favorite too, actually.
Yeah, I really like Dan, like you said, I really liked how they kind of had a mix of their old and new stuff. And like I kind of talked about a little bit with my background, I still am very much into the, early 2000s, some of that music. I just, refuse to accept that time has moved on and that new music has come out and stuff. But I definitely do listen to some newer stuff. But I live in nostalgia, so I really liked that they played some of those older songs. I feel like I did listen to Underoath a little bit when I was younger, but I feel like it was one of those bands that my parents were like, "Oh, you can't listen to that. That you're going to be hanging out with a riffraff," like not really understanding much about, Underoath or their music or things like that. But yeah, I really liked that they had that good mix of the old and new, because I haven't really listened to much of their new stuff. I'm more familiar with their old stuff, so I appreciated that. And I also really, like you said, Matt, I really liked their light show as well. I feel like, that's one thing that I always enjoy when I go to a metal concert or even just like see a video of a metal concert, is the light shows just always look so cool. So I really appreciated that as well.
In my old age, I thought I was going to have a seizure. To be completely honest, the
Yeah.
strobes were getting to me a little bit. I was like, "Oh man, I need to take a nap after this." I'm
They
starting to feel
definitely
woozy.
they definitely should have had that warning that, the lighting could have caused negative effects on some people. So that may have been a little questionable that they didn't put that disclaimer out there, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was cool. It was definitely cool. But yeah, the whole show itself kind of put me back in a mosh pit, a sweaty mosh pit at Warped Tour in 2008 or whatever. Like, just started having those vibes. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go into the pit, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna die. So, while
Know
I
your
did,
limits, Dan.
while I did go into the pit to like exclusively take a photo and then leave before getting punched in the mouth, that was the extent of that for me.
Wait, did you get punched in the mouth?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay,
no.
okay.
Thankfully, no. I'm frail.
Okay, I was gonna say if you did get punched in the mouth, I definitely missed that.
Yeah, no.
Glad you didn't.
Fortunately, that did not happen. That would have been a whole nother conversation, I guess. But yeah, just sort of, I guess, Underoath, they're sort of coming back to their original sound a little bit on their new record too, and they played some of those songs live and sort of flowing into them from older stuff, like off their newest record, because like you had said, like the 2 records before this new one weren't that great. At least to our, not to say that we have like these elite standards, but at least for us personally,
What do you mean, Dan?
it doesn't really fit what we listen to. But the new record definitely started to give me like They're Only Chasing Safety and Define the Great Line vibes. So not the whole thing, but some.
Yeah, they
tracks off of it.
definitely seem like they're kind of getting back to their roots, which I like. I mean, hopefully they're doing it because they also wanted to go back and not because they felt like their audience demanded it.
Right,
You don't want them writing music just because it's like, oh, this is what the fans want. You want them to enjoy what they make too.
For
So,
sure. Yeah. And that's, I mean, not that they're a progressive band, but all bands progress as they age and whatever. And I mean, pretty much every band we listen to has to some degree changed. So, if you stay stale and stagnant and don't do something different, you don't garner any new fans. You just stay the same. So you got to make changes. We've said this before too.
Yeah.
So, but it's nice to see them sort of, like, oh, we changed a little bit. Let's throw back a little bit. It was nice to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoy their new album, and I think it does kind of throw back, it's kind of like the BT Bam Colors too. And
Yes.
It's like, it's a new album itself, but it kind of refers back to their older
yeah,
stuff. So I like
exactly.
that.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I might be alone on this, but I think a lot of people our age are really just into kind of the nostalgia, because I think a lot of people, that were born in the late 80s, early 90s and are, I guess full-fledged adults now, as much as I don't like to admit that. We kind of like to listen to things that remind us of, kind of the better days when things were easier and stuff. So, I definitely, I agree that obviously bands as well as people need to kind of grow and change to fit, to fit what newer audiences want. But I definitely, also appreciate kind of listening to older music as well as newer music that gives sort of a nod to some of the older stuff.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I often go back and listen. Like, I have a playlist called like Throwbacks or something like that on Spotify that I just go back and listen to old stuff all the time. And I mean, like we said on the last podcast, and we'll talk about that in a different podcast. But I was talking about how I was listening to Darkest Hours' Deliver Us record pretty often recently, and that's a huge throwback for me too. So that happens to me a lot. I'll find a record that I vibe with. They're Only Chasing Safety. Like, I often go back and listen to that record. I'll go back and listen to old All Shall Perish records.
Oh wow, that's
yeah. I was listening to Wage Slaves yesterday. And, so I mean, yeah, you just get into moods sometimes where it's like, I just want to vibe to something that transports me to somewhere else.
That's my constant mood.
Yeah, I feel like there's that comfort in the known, and it's like you go back, like Colleen was saying, that the simpler times, so you just like it transports you to that time and place that you picture when you were listening to that album and stuff. And there's something to that, and music does that to people. Like, it connects you to other times and places, and that's what's so awesome about music, is it just like hits all the senses.
For sure.
Yeah, it takes us back to a time when we didn't have to worry about jobs and mortgages and taxes and, all that
You guys
fun
pay taxes?
stuff. Uh-oh. The IRS is going to come for Dan.
I just throw those letters in the mail. Back to the sender.
I don't think the IRS listens to this podcast. We're safe.
You
Not
never
now,
know, though.
not
Maybe they're
yet.
big metal fans. Who knows?
I don't think so. They got to work on our tax returns. They're too busy.
Yes, for sure. Get that extra money. But so I don't know. Do we want to kind of give some final thoughts? Go around the horn and just who was your favorite band? What was from the show? What was your favorite set?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll I'll take it off here. For me, I was kind of I similar to you, Dan, where I think Stray from the Path when they came out so strong, it's like, wow, this is gonna be tough to top. But I feel like just the nostalgia factor and the set list that Underoath played just really ended up wowing me. It was just kind of a crazy a show altogether. Like all the bands performed well and put on good shows, but I think Underoath was kind of the pinnacle there and my favorite.
I would definitely say that Underoath was my favorite just because they are the band that I'm most familiar with and have kind of known for the longest amount of time. So I definitely like hearing new music, but I always, I always like going to a concert and being able to kind of sing along to a song. But I do just Spiritbox is I've kind of said this before. I have a little bit of a woman crush on Courtney. I think, like I said before,
I have a woman crush on Courtney.
I think, just the fact that she is able to be just such a strong and powerful presence in a male dominated music field is just so impressive. And, she just does it so amazingly well. And, obviously Spiritbox is, I think, pretty well known in the metal.
They are now. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and just the fact that there is a woman-led band in the metal genre that is, pretty well known and so loved, I think that definitely just deserves a shout out. Fight the patriarchy.
Shout out to Entheos. Shout out to Straight Line Stitch. Shout
Ginger.
out to Ginger. There's probably a lot more, but we don't have to keep on rattling them off. Oh yeah, Code Orange, Pittsburgh band. She is a beast. They're so good. They're starting to change a little bit. We don't have to talk about that though. But Code Orange is awesome. I remember seeing them live at like really small venues, so that was always really cool. Now they're playing stadiums. So Steph, who's your favorite band?
Definitely Underoath. Define the Great Lines, the Superior album.
False.
And then probably second would have been the Stray from the Path. Like I said, I was surprised to like them. They were definitely like the upbeat Rage Against the Machine. Definitely felt like I was ready to go start a boxing class. So I liked them. And then, then Spiritbox, and then followed by Bad Omens for sure.
Yeah, that's probably my order too, to be honest. I kind of went into it thinking that Spiritbox was going to be my favorite set. Then when Stray from the Path started, I thought that no one's going to top that set. And then Underoath came on and this nostalgia bomb took over. So yeah, I think Underoath, then Stray from the Path, then Spiritbox, then Bad Omens. But
yeah, it's tough for me between Stray from the Path and Spiritbox, whether like which one takes second.
Right.
They were both really good, and yeah, I'd say maybe Stray from the Path just because like I hadn't heard them much, so it was kind of like that surprise factor. So I think they may have like taken over in there, and Spiritbox being a third.
Yeah, it was probably just the mix for me, honestly, with Spiritbox.
Yeah,
that was probably the only thing that got me. But I mean, we did, like you said, I kind of put a spotlight a little bit more on the instrumentals, which people don't typically focus on with Spiritbox. So yeah, definitely a good show all around. Hopefully people listening got to catch that tour. If not, I'm sure all of the bands on this tour will be touring again. Probably, obviously not together, but keep an eye out.
Know.
Yeah, and we typically try to repost tours as they get announced. So keep an eye on our story and stuff like that for new tours as they get announced. And if they're special to us, we might even repost them. So hence the one that we just recently reposted. Darkest Hour is going to be touring Deliver Us in its entirety, but we'll talk about that on the next general transmission
We
episode.
willed it to be. We willed it.
We did will it to be. Listen to our last episode. We talked about it. And if not, we talked about it before that episode and didn't record it, but I remember talking about it. So, and I've been posting on their social media for like 10 years for them to do this. So
I wish you would have been able to will to be Bill Murray coming to Pittsburgh, because I know they were trying to figure out where to go, and there were so many people that wanted Bill Murray to come to Pittsburgh, and they didn't, and it's a bummer. It hits me hard in the feels that they didn't come here.
they might soon. Don't lose hope, you know? Maybe not this
Never.
tour, but next one.
Do your feelings have feelings?
My feelings do have feelings.
That's a deep cut for Bill Murray fans.
But anyways, so yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. We did attend another show recently, so we'll probably have another episode out about that one. I'm not going to talk about that on this though, because probably have done enough tangents on this one. So definitely follow all of our social medias if you haven't already. Instagram, just look up Progressive Gentlemen. Twitter, it's the Prog Gent Pod, and we're on all of your podcasting platforms. Whatever you're listening to us on right now, go ahead and rate us. We already know we're 5-star quality, so if you could just confirm that for us, that would be great.
Give us 6 stars.
Yeah,
Even if it
you
only
can
lets
find
you
a
5.
sixth. If you can find a 6th, we'll take it. But yeah, it definitely helps us out. It gets us a little bit more exposure. So yeah, we definitely appreciate it, and we appreciate your time, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.
See ya.
Thanks for listening.